Hello, everyone. This is Frankie Serenelli from Serenelli and Associates. I'm here to talk to you today about the PPP loan forgiveness application, or applications, should I say, because that is correct. There are multiple applications. There's different applications and qualifications for each one, which I will run through with you. Most of you are coming up on your 24-week time period, covered period, and you are anxious to get your applications filed. I will tell you this, that as of right now, we do not believe that legislation is final on the PPP loan application forms. That doesn't mean that you can't file if you've reached your 24-week period. It just means that the rules may change soon after. We're still waiting for some guidance on some things and eligibility requirements and a few other things on the PPP loans as forgiveness applications, as well as an additional short form for forgiveness that there's talk about coming out soon. Right now, I just want to show you what we do have so far. Is there are three different forms. It is the 3508, okay, and the 3508 is the PPP loan forgiveness application long form, which is about 11 pages long. The PPP 3508 EZ form is a much more condensed form with much less calculations on it. Okay, so this is about a 3-page form. Okay, and then you have the 3508S, which is a 2-page form, which is even shorter form than the 3508, and the qualification is even less than the 3508. So first I want to talk to you about who qualifies for the short form, the EZ, the 3508 EZ, okay? And it's whether or not on page 1 of the instructions, if you can answer these questions, okay? And the first one is if the borrower is a self-employed individual, independent contractor, or sole proprietor who had no employees at the time of the PPP loan application and did not include any employees' salaries in the computation of average monthly payroll in the borrower's application form. So if you were self-employed, you're the only person that was employed in collecting pay, whether it be through payroll, or if it was just draw checks that you were taking if you were an LLC, then that would automatically qualify you for this form, and you would be able to use this if you were the only one in the calculation for the PPP. Okay, so no employees. The second two are what I think most people are going to qualify under in the state of New Jersey, and here's the two pieces to it. You've got to qualify by checking the box for one of these three. So if you're self-employed but you have employees, or you're an S corporation and you have employees, or you're a partnership and you have employees, then you have to be able to check one of these two boxes, okay? And for the first one, it is if the borrower did not reduce the annual salary or hourly wages, okay, of any of the employees by more than 25% during the covered period, or the alternative covered period, okay? So that's if you were paying your employee and you got the PPP loan money, you brought them back, you didn't reduce their wages by more than 25%. So if you were paying them $100 an hour, $75 an hour. If you didn't reduce it by any more than that, then you're in the clear. That was for quick math, because of course you're still capped at the annualized rate of $100,000 of salary per employee. Okay, but if you didn't reduce their wages, then the first part of this question would be answered. The second is an and, it's not an or. You have to qualify for both pieces of this, okay? The borrower did not reduce the number of employees or average paid hours of employees between January 1st and the end of the covered period, meaning that during your covered period time frame, did you reduce the hours that you had them working? So, okay, you know what, we're not really open, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pay you, but I'm only going to pay you for 20 hours instead of 40 hours because, we're really not open, or we're not open to capacity, or we're not operating as usual, so I'm going to reduce your hours, okay? You can ignore a reduction that arose from the inability to rehire individuals who were employees on February 15th, okay, so they had to be employees of yours on February 15th, if the borrower was unable to hire similarly qualified employees for unfulfilled positions, okay? So what that means is, if you tried to hire your employee back, or you got rid of them, you got rid of one of your employees, and you couldn't hire somebody of a similar caliber, like if you were running a daycare center and you needed a teacher and you couldn't find another teacher, then you would be exempt from that, okay? Also ignore the reduction in the hours that the borrower offered to restore and the employee refused. So we all know this, that on the federal unemployment was receiving an additional $600, which is probably one of the bigger reasons why some of the employees were home, whether they were taking care of children, they didn't want to come back to work, and they were collecting unemployment, for whatever the reason may be. You offered them their job back, they refused it and didn't want to take it. Now, for documentation requirement of this, we were talking to some of our clients that we thought were going to qualify under this back then, and they're still not very clear as to what the documentation requirement is going to be. That's something that the bank is going to ask you for. But if you have like an email offer that you had given them and they declined it, you can also keep them out of this calculation. So if you were able to check this box because you had met both of these, then you would qualify for the Form 3508EZ. If you did not qualify for either one of these, you'd have to move down to the last one, and the last one is something that I think most in the state would qualify for, but we are still waiting on some guidance for the second half of this question. So again, it's the same thing. If you did not reduce the annual salary or hourly wages by more than 25%, okay, by more than 25% during the covered period or the alternative covered period. Okay, so it's the same as the top part of the first question. This one's a little bit different. It is, and the borrower was unable to operate during the covered period at the same level of business activity as before February 15th, 2020, due to compliance with required established or guidance issued by March 1st, 2020 and December 31st, 2020 by the Secretary of Health and Human Services. Okay, so this is if your business was shut down, if it was a government mandate and you were shut down. We know a lot of restaurants were shut down through almost the entire covered period. We know a lot of businesses were not only shut down for the 2 weeks, but were shut down for 4 weeks unless you, or 12 weeks if you were not the essential workers, construction workers, attorneys, some financial planners, some other different things. If you were not covered under that essential worker plan, this pretty much affected most of New Jersey. Now, whether you were able to work remotely is a different story. If you could still operate your business remotely, your doors were closed, your offices were closed, or you just have a home office to start with, and you were able to work and continue your business, to the same level of activity, then you would not qualify for this, okay? So those are the three questions. You only need to check the box on one of them to be able to file this Form EZ, okay? If you're eligible for filing the 3508 EZ, this is what the application form looks like, okay? So I want to start at the top here because this whole section here, okay, is the same on all of the application forms, okay? Every form has this top section, and it is exactly the same, okay? So you have to put in your legal business name, your business address, your DBA if you have one, okay, your tax ID number, your business phone number, email, your contact address. And here's one that I really want to go over. When you originally applied for the loan with your lender, okay, so if you were using, let's take Bank of America for an example. Okay, Bank of America, when you applied for the loan, gave you a lender PPP loan number, okay? And whether it was Wells Fargo or Chase Bank, whoever you were using, they all gave you a lender number. You must have the lender number. You also must have on the application, once you were approved for the loan, the SBA issued you a PPP loan number, okay? It's come to our attention that if you do not have both of these numbers on the form, that it would be rejected by the SBA, okay? So make sure that you have both of these numbers on there. You should have a copy of the applications that you had filed. If not, you should go back to your lender and ask them for copies of them, and they should be able to provide you with these amounts were. Now, I do want to mention with any one of these forms, the 3508EZ, the 3508, and the 3508S, there are copies of these on the Treasury website and also on the SBA website. The thing is, you must go back to your bank to file this application. So you can go through and look at these applications and look at the instructions, but you cannot fill these out and send these into the SBA. You must go through your bank or lending institution that you originally filed for the PPP loan with. They are the ones that are issuing these back out to you. Some of them are not even offering out the application right now because they think that the applications are going to change. Some of them are pushing to try and get you to file them because they have millions and millions of applications that they are going to have to file. So they're trying to get as many cleared as they can before the masses are filing. So again, you have to go back to your bank. They may have an online form version, kind of like how you did the original application form. They may give you a paper form. We don't know. It is bank specific. So please, you got to contact your lender. But they should all be following the same criteria and guideline here for the application itself, okay? So again, you need these PPP numbers. So I'm going to go over this. The PPP loan amount would just be however much that you received in the PPP loan, okay? The loan disbursement date is going to be the day that the money hit your bank. So the day that the money was deposited is the loan disbursement date, okay? Straightforward and simple. They're asking you how many employees did you have at the time of the loan application. So if you filed your loan application on 4/1, you're going to put in here how many people that you had working for you as of 4/1. And then they also wanted to know how many employees at the time of the forgiveness of the application. They're checking to see if you had, the same amount of employees or more to cover that FTE, that full-time employee equivalency calculation. Here, this is a big part of this also now. The EIDL loan, if you received an EIDL advance, okay, so back in the beginning, if you had filed for the economic disaster loan, they were issuing a $10,000 advance on the loan, okay, that was forgivable, okay, meaning that you don't have to file anything to get it back, you don't have to do anything to get it back. We're giving you an advance on the loan, and that was forgiven. There was no payback on it. They quickly changed the $10,000 to $1,000 per employee that you had. So if you had three employees, they were giving you a $3,000 advance. before they were processing the loan applications. Okay, if you got that, you do have to put that number in here. So let's say if you got $3,000 of the EIDL loan, that is going to reduce whatever this forgiveness amount is, whatever you qualify for. They're going to reduce the $3,000 of the EIDL advance because you already received this money and the forgiveness on it, and there was no payback, so you can't get it twice. Okay, so they will reduce that. The EIDL application number, you also need to fill this out. It is a requirement. Whether or not you took the loan, it doesn't matter. You still need to put the EIDL application number down. Okay, so if you've got that 30-year note at 3.75% over 30 years, whatever money they had offered you, somewhere, they were offering, based upon your income, they could have been up to $150,000. Even if you never filled out the acceptance, you never took the money, you still need to put this number in. Okay. Payroll frequency, pretty simple. It's going to be biweekly, weekly, monthly, however you pay your employees. Okay. Your covered period. Okay. Your covered period is going to be from the date that the money hit the bank. So let's take the example, if the money hit the bank on 4/1/2020, okay, that would be the start of your covered period, and you will calculate 24 weeks out, right, which would bring you to 9/15/2020, okay? That would be your covered period, okay? If you are going to use the alternative payroll covered period, okay, and the alternative payroll period would be if you got the money deposited on 4/1, let's say, okay, that's in the middle of a payroll week. And you say, you know what, to make things easy so that I can track the payroll, I want to start the first date on the first payroll covered period from when the money was put in the bank. So let's say your payroll period starts on a Monday. Okay, you would use the dates of 4/6/2020, okay, and your 24-week out calculation would be 9/20/2020. Okay, that would give you the 24-week covered period. Now I'm using the 24-week covered period. There is also an 8-week coverage period, which I don't think many are going to be using. I think most are going to be on the 24-week covered period. In all cases, if you were a business owner and included yourself in the PPP calculation, you are required to use the 24-week covered period. Okay, so I'm just going through giving you the 24-week. If it's 8 weeks, it's 8 weeks, and you just do the calculation and put it in here. I know that a lot of the payroll companies are working with the clients right now to get them payroll reports that they're going to need for the banks to be able to process these loan forgiveness applications by these covered periods. So like Paychex, ADP, Anchor, I know that they're all working on getting all the documents required that you need. So if you aren't working with your payroll company, you should be giving them a call and telling them this is the covered periods, these are the records that I'm going to need, which we'll go over shortly. Now, again, this top half is the same on every application. That's why I'm kind of going into this in detail. Okay, this is what is different on every application. Okay, this bottom portion here, okay, this is the EZ. Okay, this is it. This is the calculation that you have to do. Very simple, very straightforward. You're going to put in the payroll costs that you had. Okay, so over that 24-week time period, this is the amount of payroll that I had. Okay, if it's $50,000 or $100,000, that's how much I spent on the payroll cost in that 24-week period, which your backup payroll records are going to show. Okay, if you also said on top of that, I also am using mortgage interest that I paid, or rent or lease payments that I had made, or utility payments that you had made, know that there's going to be different backup requirements for all of these. You're going to have to submit probably a lease agreement that shows that you were in a lease before February, that your canceled checks for the rent, you probably have to show the canceled checks for and the invoices for your utility payments. Okay, the banks are going to require your documentation because they are the ones processing the loans. So when you go to apply for these applications, just like they did with the applications for the loans themselves, they are going to give you what they are requiring for documentation for all of these. Okay, so you're basically just going to list these out. Okay, and then you're going to add them up. So you're going to add up lines 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, and put it here. And I think most using the 24-week period are going to qualify for this just using the payroll cost. Okay, so if you put the payroll cost in here, then you're going to put in whatever the PPP loan amount that you received was in here. Okay, and then the final calculation is you have to take your payroll cost that you had, which is off of line 1, okay, and divide it by 0.60. Okay, that number is going to go in here, and the forgiveness amount is going to be the smallest of line 5, 6, or 7. So whatever the lower is, and we have gone through and done mock calculations and workups on these. As long as you were paying your payroll over the 60%, you're going to qualify for the entirety of your loan. If you weren't and you are using some of the mortgage interest, lease payments, and things like that, then you should also still qualify for the total amount of the forgiveness. Okay, so that's it in a nutshell for the easy form. That is the whole application. Another thing that there is on all of the applications is this is the affidavit that you have to make the representation and certifications that you use the money for what it was supposed to be used for, that you applied for the money correctly, and that you were still a business that was open. And this kind of lists out all of the guidelines that the SBA has, what actions they're going to take if they find that you fraudulently applied for it or you didn't use the money in the way that you said you used it for. Okay. So this goes back to just like what you had to do when you originally filed for the loan. You had to, swear that you needed the money. This is what you were using it for. So again, this is kind of just laying out the guidelines. This form, the entire thing is the same on all of the applications. Okay, you have to attest to this form. You have to initial every line, or you can't apply for it, the application forgiveness. Okay, so again, that's on every single one of them. It's on the 3508EZ, the S, and the long form. Another form that is also on all three is this form here, which is a demographic information form. I have this circled. It is an optional form. You do not have to fill this out. If you do want to fill this out, you are more than welcome to fill it out, but it is optional. You don't have to fill it out. It's very simple. They're just asking for your name, your position, and whether you're a veteran or not, what your gender is, your race, and your ethnicity. Okay, but again, it's an optional form that you don't have to fill out, but it is on, again, every one of the forms, the S, the EZ, and the long form. Okay, that is the 3508 EZ form, which I think most are going to qualify for. The 3508S, okay, this is an even simpler version than the EZ. Okay, this just came out 2 days ago, and what it states is that a borrower may use this form only if the borrower received a PPP loan of $50,000 or less. Okay, so $50,000 or less of PPP loan money. You can use this form to fill out. Again, top part, like I said, it's the same. You still have to your EIDL loan, your time of the application, your loan amount, the SBA number, the lender number. You still have to fill out all of the same information. the forgiveness amount is going to be the total of your PPP loan because it was under the $50,000 amount. Okay, so as long as you spent all that money on payroll, on your rent and utilities, on your mortgage or lease that you had before February, then you're going to be able to qualify for the forgiveness amount, which you would just enter that number in here. Okay, again, here's your representation of certification. So that's your affidavit that you did use the money what you're supposed to use it for. You sign it and you are done. There is no other calculations on this form. It is a very simple form. It is $50,000 or less. Now, originally when they were talking about this form coming out, we were originally looking for a much higher number. We were looking for the $150,000 to $200,000, which is what the banks were pushing for. It looks like that did not happen. What they did was they made it for $50,000 or less. Now, there is still talk that they are trying to push for an additional shorter forgiveness, which may increase this number. We are not sure. We can only give you the information based on the applications that are out right now. Okay. Again, here you go. You have your demographic form that you can fill out, but again, that is strictly optional. Okay. So if you qualify for the EZ form, great. It is a very short form. I think most will qualify for this. If you had less than $50,000 of the loan and you used it for the appropriate spendings, then even better, you can use this even shorter form. If you do not qualify for either of these forms, you are going to be subject to the 3508, which is the long form. Again, same information here. Okay, you've got your covered periods, you've got your ITL, you've got your time, your PPP loan number, your lender number. So this all stays the same. The big difference here is you are going to have to comply with the full-time employee equivalency. Okay. What does that mean? That means a lot of extra work and extra calculations. Your affidavit form is pretty much the same, but in order to even complete any of this form here, which is your application form, page 1, okay, these are the application form boxes that you have to fill out. You can't do any of this without filling out the PPP Schedule A, okay, which starts here. PPP Schedule A. You can't fill out any of this without completing your worksheets, the PPP Schedule A worksheet, Table 1 and then Table 2 totals, okay? So Table 1 and Table 2, keep going down the form. This is where you'd have to list all your employees, their identifying number, their compensation, their average full-time employee calculation, their wages and salary, their reductions. This form gets very cumbersome, okay? This is not an easy form to fill out. There are a lot of different things that go into this, especially if you have multiple employees like our restaurants, daycare centers, construction industry, pretty much anybody that had a number of employees. It's a lot to list and a lot to go through. So I'm not going to go through this entire form. I just wanted to show you briefly what the differences were in this. Now, we are offering assistance, okay, through a separate engagement for the 3508 EZs, the S's, and the 3508. We are always there for our clients. Again, we are there for separate engagement for any assistance that you would need with these forms. So with that said, those are your 3 options. Again, you have to go to the banking institution where you originally filed for the application. These forms are subject to change. They may change. They may not change. We don't know that. We don't have the guidance from the SBA or the government. So those are kind of the things that we are waiting for. Okay, so please, if you need any help, feel free to contact us. Our office number is 973-927-3300. You can also email any one of us or visit us on our website. It is serenellicpa.com. ppplloanapp.com. Go to the contact us page or the employee page, and you can email any one of us directly, whoever you work with. That's it. That's what I have for you on the 3508s, and I hope to be working with all of you soon, getting you through this process as we did with the PPP loan application to get the money in the first place. So I look forward to hearing from all of you and hope that this process is painless for you. Thank you very much.